Welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurial Family Man Podcast. I am Chris Niemeyer, here with my good friends Christopher McCluskey, Jamie Slingerland, and Michael McGreevy. We are just four guys who are crazy about our wives. We love our kids, and we want to kill it in business. Today, we want to get back to the core of that function of who we are as four guys who lead this. And we had a question from one of our listeners here. I just want to read this because this is really going to get to the heart of our discussion today. He says, how do you gentlemen manage the competing demands of family and work? I'm really struggling to be present and involved with my family, especially when I have an existing professional business and the new entrepreneurial business that I hope will take me into retirement. Man, that is a great question, loaded with things to unpack today. And Michael, I want to turn it to you first here. Let's just unpack this a little bit in terms of what he's addressing between family and work, the demands, retirement, all this stuff. How does that get to the philosophy of EFM?
First, I just want to say welcome to the struggle. I think all of us are struggling with that tension of how much time do I spend on my work and how much time do I give to my kids? I mean, that's something I still struggle with. I know what I'm aiming for with the EFM philosophy being, we say we're crazy about our wives first for a reason, and we love our kids second for a reason, and we want to kill it in business is the third thing on the list. And that's very intentional that those things are in order. So I know what I'm shooting for. I know that I want my life to reflect that that's the order that I allocate my time.
Yeah, that's great, Michael. That's so at the heart of what we're about here is that specific order, that sequence is what we're trying to address in our lives. And really our business decisions reflect that. The way we've entered into business, the types of business we have in terms of the freedom and flexibility that they offer around the lifestyle we want to live with our wife and our children. Chris, what does that look like for you in your life and the time that you devote to your family, work? What's that tension been like for you?
It is a tension, that's for sure. And I'm glad that we started out with that philosophy because it really is a philosophy. Without sounding really highbrowed, the things that matter most to us in EFM are first and foremost our marriages. And then secondly, and clearly in second place behind the marriage, but definitely ahead of the business, is our kids. Those two domains, if we feel like maybe we didn't get a home run, but we got a double or we got on base in those, whether we ultimately then also killed it in business or not won't really matter. Nearly so much as if we flipped those and we were like crazy about our businesses, and we wound up instead on the other end killing our marriages. And the world is full of men whose heritage is actually that. They may have torn it up in the business world, but they lost their kids somewhere along the way, and their marriage, maybe they're on marriage number 2 or 3 or just, not even bothering anymore. You don't have to look very far. Watch your television set. Hollywood's full of them, but Hollywood's not the only place they exist. And that really is, I think that you asked me, how does that apply to me? That is what would you call it, a mirror that I hold up? That's a reality that I hold up before myself on a daily basis and ask, what in the end of my life is going to have mattered most? Then how does that speak to how I'm investing my time and energy today?
I love that you ask yourself that question, Chris, on a daily basis, because that really is, and it gets to the heart too of the fact that this is a struggle. It is a daily struggle, especially as an entrepreneur when you're having these competing demands of bringing home the bacon and making sure that you're at the dinner table with them too, and your sleeves are rolled up and you're there and you're present. So making sure that you have those questions addressed on a routine basis, I think, is critical for this kind of lifestyle. Jamie, I want to get back to even just the first discussion we had about this birth of the idea of EFM started really because of this kind of a conversation. You recall that conversation we had there in Coronado. There are plenty of people, there are plenty of podcasts, frankly, out there talking about how to kill it in business, but very few in this space talking about how do you integrate the importances of our marriage and our family. Can you shed some light on that, Jamie, in terms of what we brought to the table to even start EFM in the first place around this philosophy?
It's not something that a lot of guys are talking about, because the struggles that we have as dads and husbands make us feel weak, like we talked about on last episode. But our business success is something that we want to talk about. We want to get together in a mastermind group and talk about ways of scaling our business. And there's quantifiable results that we can look at. We can look at our business account and we can look at our mailing list and feel really good about ourselves. I don't know. It was cool. Like the context that I met you, Chris, we were on a cruise with our family and our kids with our wives. I wanted to do more of that. And I was really hungry to find a group of guys that wanted to crush it in business, but also wanted to have really good marriages. So I have to admit, when I first connected with you, it was almost hard to go down that trail of talking about how we wanted our marriages to look, because it's just not a really common conversation that business guys do.
Yeah, that's so good, Jamie, because it is so uncommon. And I often have these conversations as a coach with a lot of my clients. The response that I get is, well, that is the way that I take care of my kids. I provide for them. I work my tail off to make sure they have everything they need, and I give them more than I had as a kid growing up. That's an interesting thing too with philosophy, is there is a little bit of a tweaking of that as well. I feel like when it comes to taking care of or prioritizing your wife and your kids, maybe we don't know what that full picture looks like. Maybe it means something different than just providing financially.
You know, Mike, you used a phrase there that immediately called up for me a memory from many decades ago. In my teenage years, I guess it probably was, Dr. James Dobson launched Focus on the Family, and that was a radio broadcast that I heard far more episodes of than I'm sure I could count. It was a big thing that spoke into the culture for a long period of time there. It was by far the most widely listened to and syndicated radio show in the world. And the title itself, Focus on the Family, was all about his awareness that the family was being hammered a lot because of our 20th century lifestyle and the degree to which business was taking families apart, tearing them in different directions, and the family was suffering greatly. But one of the phrases that he used more than once in some of those episodes was that many of us are so busy trying to give our kids what we didn't have that we don't have the time to give them what we did have. And what we did have in many cases growing up was time. Dad, or at least mom, and often dad then in the evenings and on weekends, was there. And our 20th century, now we're in the 21st century, well into it, that is not what our kids and our marriages typically have a lot of, is time. We don't spend a lot of time focusing on our families. We are very focused on our businesses.
Oh my gosh, Chris, that is so powerful. When I think about my own parents, I don't think there's one moment that I said, oh my gosh, I wish he just would have worked a little harder and made a little bit more money, because then we could have had this. No, every complaint or pain or hurt that I might have had from my parents is all around being with them, learning from them, having them speak into my life. And they were outstanding parents too. Don't get me wrong. But none of it was based on their career.
No.
Yeah, and McCluskey, as you were saying that, again, this is not something that people are talking about a lot in our culture, about families spending time with each other. I forgot the stat or whatever, but it's some crazy amount of times that we're marketed to a day, just subconsciously. And it's always about having more or getting some product that we're going to finally make us feel happy. Our culture bombards us with all these ideas that we need to go someplace or have the next gadget in order to have real peace. Our culture is not telling us all you need to do is be around people that love each other and spend time together and have true acceptance under the roof of your house. And so, I mean, that's what I love about the conversations that we get to have, is that we're constantly reminding each other of the truth that we are successful because we're trying to do this now. We're trying to our best that we can to be present with our wives and love our kids, and also really build a business around our top values. The world doesn't value that like we do in this derelict group.
Word of the week from 2 weeks ago. Derelict. Yeah, I love what you guys are all just shared right there, because it really is emphasizing that point that we have under our roofs.
Is it roof or roofs?
Roof. Part of the country is a roof.
The roofers are coming.
Hang on. No. Roof.
I think it's the West Coast thing that I'm bringing over here. But anyway, there's another study that's out that suggests 80% of the time that you spend with your children for the rest of their lives into adulthood, 80% of the time you spend with your kids is while they're in your house before they leave the house. 20% is the rest of their life. Now, they're going to live decades beyond that, but knowing that and what you just shared about how important it is to be present, to be known and to know them well, takes that philosophy. And Chris, I like what you've shared before about, can you talk about this idea you'd rather go into what kind of debt than another kind of debt?
Yeah, right. There's many kinds of debt in life, and usually we men, we worry quite a bit about financial debt, and rightly so. We don't want to get into a position of financial indebtedness. So we want to be careful with our money, spend it wisely, budget, all those good things. But if I have to choose a particular kind of debt as I go through life, especially the child-rearing years, I will choose financial debt over relational debt or life experience debt. You're not going to get through the child-rearing years and launch your kids and not have any kind of debt in any arena of your life. It's not going to happen. But if you're looking at all the different kinds of things, like any yes means a no and any no means a yes, everything balances out. If I'm choosing very consciously the kinds of debt that I'll take on, and it comes down to time versus money, experience and connection with the kids versus, we really don't have that in the budget right now. Without being ridiculous in my spending, I have many times taken on financial debt in the interest of not missing a window for experience, relationship, memory making, catching that opportunity that was there, because I can make more money down the road. I can never get that time back.
Yeah, that's a good word. That time is so precious and hard to put a dollar amount on. Dare we even address it that way? So I love that. And really, this is the question, right? Is addressing that philosophy of the tension between family and work. And then moving to the second question, what's the practical nature of how this works, of how the tension is? How do we address the practical nature on a day in, day out basis of being an entrepreneur, having a wife and kids in our house? How do you address that time reality? We're only given 24 hours in a day. What's that look like for you?
For me, that tension, that struggle, sometimes is fabricated in my own mind. I'm really at a season where I have the opportunity to spend more time with my wife and kids. And the narrative in my mind is that, no, you're going to miss out on something. There's a scarcity mindset of that I need to grow my business even faster and say no to my family. And I've been in the opposite spot too, where I'm a little bit lazy. And I know I just need to be a little bit more focused on that. This struggle and this tension is actually real. It doesn't matter where you are. We're constantly, as men, especially entrepreneurs, in this struggle and this mindset of, like, am I able to spend this extra time with my family and go on this extra trip? Or am I going to put them in jeopardy? Because at the end of the day, we are called to provide a life for them. And so we do need to solve that problem of creating that financial income and that security for our family as providers. I can tell myself that I'm in a bad spot when I'm really not.
That's good, Jamie. I know I've wasted a lot of energy feeling guilty for not spending enough time with my family or not spending enough time on my career. And what that looks like, if anyone out there has struggled with that, you know what I'm talking about. When you come home and you leave the office or you set down your work for the day, just feeling like, oh man, I didn't quite get enough done. I need to just answer one more email. So you're on your phone while you're at home and your kids are running around, or then you jump back over to the laptop and say, oh yeah, honey, I just have 20 minutes. I gotta shoot this little thing out and then we'll be done. So you're not fully there with your family when you're home. And then because you weren't fully there, you go back to your work and you're feeling like, oh man, I'm feeling guilty. Like I didn't spend much time with my kids. And when I was there, I wasn't really there. And I really need to take my wife out, but I got to get this work done. And then it becomes this perpetual cycle between feeling guilty about not doing enough work when you're at home and vice versa when you're at work. And man, that can be an energy drainer right there. It can really sabotage both of those worlds.
You're reading my mail, Michael. Or you have like a camera set up in my mind here, or what?
I was reading my mail.
Cycle, really. Chris, before we even hit record here, you were posing kind of one of the classic coaching questions, like, step into the future, step out to the end of your life, the rocking chair or the deathbed or the nursing home or whatever. That seems to maybe need to be thrown in here right now, because it brings perspective to what otherwise can feel like an unwinnable, catch-22. But you step into the future and look backwards, and maybe things become a little clearer.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that. That is a real tension too, about not being fully present in one area and fully present in the other. That's going to continue that vicious cycle. And there were some studies done. It was like hospice people. They were interviewed and they said, what are the top 5 regrets that people on their deathbed say? And this was surveyed over tens of thousands of people. The number one regret was, I wish I would have spent more time with those I loved. Never in the top 5 was that I wish I would have spent a little more time at work. It was always, there could have always been more time I would have spent with my wife, with my kids. And that's real. And, to go to your point, Michael, that tension that you hear from your clients, I love seeing how each of you guys on the screen, my friends here, have been able to hack that a little. You've been able to create schedules around how you do life. And, Michael, you're a great example of trying to batch what you do. Mm-hmm. You batch a lot of your coaching sessions into one week so that you're more present the following week. And you have that rhythm to your lifestyle. Jamie, when you're not living in Mexico, because you're traveling all the time, I see you batch all of this work to get done prior to a trip and right after the trip so that you're fully present and available to be there for your family while you're away. Chris, you have done so many things with scheduling your business, the classes that you teach, the masterminds you run in certain windows of time, because you know that a lot of the other windows of time during the day, your energy and your presence has to be spent with your family. So I love seeing your 3 examples of that. It really energizes me.
The crazy thing is I know what somebody's feeling right now that's listening, because I've felt this before too. Well, if I don't keep pushing hard on my business, this whole thing is just going to come apart and come undone. And I've found the opposite to happen in my life, is I have invested more in my family and been with them when I've been with them, and when I'm working. Both of those worlds have improved big time. And I've been reading this book. It's a collection of articles from the Harvard Business Review. And this one really stuck out to me. It's by Clayton Christensen. And he's talking about this dynamic. And I'll read directly from it. This is a quote. People who are driven to excel have this unconscious propensity to underinvest in their families and overinvest in their careers, even though intimate and loving relationships with their families are the most powerful and enduring sources of happiness. If you study the root causes of business disasters over and over, you'll find this predisposition toward endeavors that offer immediate gratification. If you look at personal lives through that lens, you'll see the same stunning and sobering pattern. People allocating fewer and fewer resources to the things they would once have said mattered most.
Man, that is powerful. That's pretty impressive, too, that one of the worst business failures is due to this idea of family. That's not something that you would normally think of. And the fact that's in Harvard Business Review, that's pretty incredible. So what about you? When we talk about this philosophy of the EFM lifestyle and really the tension that does exist and will continue, integrating your family, your work, those you love, where do you need to go revisit in that philosophy? And then move into that practical nature. What can you do? How can you readjust some things in your business to make sure those that you love are the most important? And I want to end with this story because it is a powerful example of this concept. You see, a father came home from work late again, tired and irritated, to find his 5-year-old son waiting for him at the door. "Daddy, may I ask you a question?" "Yeah, sure. What is it?" replied the man. "Daddy, how much do you make an hour?" "That's none of your business. What makes you ask such a thing?" the father said angrily. "Oh, I just want to know. Please tell me, how much do you make an hour?" pleaded the little boy. "Well, if you must know, son, I make $40 an hour." "Oh," the little boy replied, head bowed. Looking up, he said, "Daddy, may I borrow $9, please?" Well, the father was furious. "If the only reason you wanted to know how much money I make is just so you can borrow some to buy a silly little toy or some other nonsense, then you march yourself straight to your room and go to bed. Think about why you're being so selfish. I work long, hard hours every day and don't have such time for childish games." The boy quietly went to his room and shut the door. The man sat down and started to get even madder about the little boy's questioning. How dare he ask such questions, only to get some money? After an hour or so, the father had calmed down and started to think he may have been a little hard on his son. Maybe there was something he really needed to buy with that $9, and he really didn't ask for money that often. The father went to the door of his son's room and opened the door. "Are you asleep, son?" he asked. "No, Daddy, I'm awake," replied the boy. "Hey, I've been thinking. Maybe I was too hard on you earlier," said the man. "It's been a long day, and I took my aggravation out on you. Here's that $9 you asked for." The little boy sat up straight, beaming. "Oh, thank you, Daddy," he yelled. Then, reaching under his pillow, he pulled out some more crumpled bills. The man, seeing that the boy already had money, started to get angry again. "Why did you want more money if you already had some?" the father grumbled, as the little boy slowly counted his money. "Because I didn't have enough, but now I do," the little boy replied. "Daddy, I have $40 now. Can I buy an hour of your time?"